On the Hawkeyes Sports Network from Learfield, this is the Fight for Iowa podcast. Brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy, proud partner of the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Big Ten Conference. Hy-Vee, where there's a helpful smile in every aisle. Iowa's corn farmers of the Iowa Corn Growers Association and Iowa Corn Promotion Board. You may think Iowa grows corn, but the truth is, corn grows Iowa. Shields, we're right there with you in Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, and Cedar Falls. University of Iowa Healthcare, changing medicine, changing lives. This is the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Iowa football is known for its constant production of NFL tight ends and offensive linemen. Additionally, that assembly line consistency is run through the defensive secondary during the Coach Kirk Ferentz era, starting with Bob Sanders. Since 2010, 48 Hawkeyes total have been drafted, and today 44 former Hawks dot professional rosters. Riley Moss is one of the latest to get a shot. Cornerback Moss was on the field for 2,600 snaps at Iowa. Equally strong against the run and pass, Moss registered 11 career interceptions, 3 returned for touchdowns, a couple forced fumbles, and 25 pass breakups. Of Moss' 157 career tackles, 122 were solo. There isn't much Riley Moss hasn't seen. Now, as the third-round pick of the Denver Broncos at the recent NFL draft, Moss will face the best quarterbacks and receivers on the planet in a pass-happy corporation that loves to expose secondaries. He's ready for the challenge. Riley Moss joins me in the huddle on this week's Fight for Iowa podcast, courtesy of Iowa Corn, Shields, Athletico, and UIHC.
More of the Fight for Iowa podcast after this.
After a cancer diagnosis, it's natural to want to start treatment right away. But first, get a second opinion from a team that specializes in your cancer. I'm Dr. George Weiner, Director of University of Iowa Holden Comprehensive Cancer Center. Before you start treatment, you deserve to be confident you have the right diagnosis and know every option available to you. So whether it's with us or somewhere else, get a second opinion. It can change your care and your life.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Wahlberg, and I have some exciting news to share. At Wahlburgers, we are all about bringing the family together to enjoy a great meal and have a great time. That's why right now, for a limited time, kids eat free every day at all Hy-Vee Wahlburger locations. Kids 12 and under can enjoy one free kids meal with any purchase of an adult burger, sandwich, or entree salad.
Bring the family to Wahlburgers and the Wahlburgers and Hy-Vee stores, where right now, kids can eat free.
Now back to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Riley Moss' consistency and versatility had a lot to do with his selection by the Denver Broncos and new head coach Sean Payton in the NFL draft. The quarterback Russell Wilson era in the Mile High City started down a rocky road with plenty of offensive potholes and never got untracked. Denver's 5-12 record was marred by 9 one-score losses, including a pair to the world champion Chiefs, a sign that there isn't much wrong with the defense. However, when Moss was available with the 83rd pick in round 3, the Broncos couldn't resist the temptation in adding a piece to a given strength. Moss noted the Broncos got serious a week before the draft.
I met with the front office, met with the coaches, and just kind of got a feel for, the organization and what they had to offer and how they ran stuff. And, after that visit, I really enjoyed, the way that they run, the way they operate, and, the way that they, want to win games. Because, I come from, a program at Iowa where, it's you work hard and you reap what you sow, so if you work hard, you'll see success. And it seems like that's similar to, what they're doing there. And they have great defense, their defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, he's a great guy and seems to be, a great coach. And, I'm excited to get in and learn, just some different techniques and stuff from different minds. I think that's the coolest part about, going somewhere else. You've had the same coaching for 5 years at Iowa, and it's great coaching. But there's always other opinions or different things about technique. And, I'm excited to see that. So.
I remember a conversation we had this time a year ago when you thought about leaving Iowa early. You came back more motivated than ever after NFL scouts and others told you that your arms were too short and you weren't fast enough. And those comments stoked an inferno in you, but in the end, it was the right decision, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I needed another year under my belt and just prove what I could do and what I can do as a player, on and off the field. I think, I got a lot smarter in terms of football knowledge last year, staying that last year. So I'm happy with my decision. And my goal was to go, third round or better. And I was able to do that, even staying, one more year. People thought I was crazy for staying, but I bet on myself and I'm happy with what happened.
As well, you should be. I read several pre-draft scouting reports on you, and the reconnaissance was consistent with the following. Riley Moss is instinctive, terrific speed, durability, ball hawking, soft hands, and toughness. Now, all of those served you well at Iowa. You had an excellent Senior Bowl performance and a sensational combine in Indianapolis. Now, what needs to be refined or added to Riley Moss' narrative as you prepare for your first NFL training camp?
Yeah, I think, coming from Iowa, a lot of, NFL teams I've met with, say historically, Iowa prepares players to play in the NFL. And I didn't really understand that until, I was training with guys down in Florida and we talk about, how their practices were compared to our practices. And I didn't bat an eye because, I thought that was normal. I thought everyone was doing it. But, our practices were hard and it's a grind, a lot different than other places. So I never realized that. And that was the biggest thing that, I realized going through this process. So I think something that, I still need to work on a little bit. I think it's hard to say anyone's mastered, press man coverage. I think I could still get better at that. And, I'm excited to, learn underneath some of the guys that are there now and learn some new techniques. So.
The draft scouting prospectus had a concern on you with your red zone coverage and goal line situations, including run support. But you know what? Hey, in short field situations, everybody's got concerns about covering Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, or Kelsey and Kittle, for that matter, because you're going to run into the greatest tight ends in the world, too. Now, how do you get better in that danger zone?
I think it's just reps and preparing, throughout the year. I think, I've seen at Iowa, I was guarding my freshman year, I was guarding TJ Hawkins and Noah Fan every day. So it's not like I haven't gone against, that caliber of player. I heard Marvin Harrison Jr. this past year. It gives me confidence going into the league that, some of these guys that guarded in college are stars in the league. And, I did just fine against them in college. So it gives me confidence and I'm excited to, be able to go against the best because, it's iron sharpens iron.
And part of that is getting with the right team, the right system, but double down in that you've played corner, obviously, all Big Ten, but you've played safety. You've played down in the box, in zone or man. So you should, at least from that perspective, feel pretty comfortable that what you see in the NFL, Iowa prepared you well for.
Yeah. That's the best part about, being in Phil Parker's defenses. You gotta know more than just corner. Conceptually, know the entire defense and where the holes at, where are, your weak spots, being able to play inside, especially in the league, really helps, with the longevity of a job in the NFL, because that's the hardest position. And if you can do well inside, you could have a long career in the NFL. So, it helps being able to play a lot of different positions.
Riley Moss, third-round draft choice of the Denver Broncos, with us on this week's Fight for Iowa podcast. We'll come back and wrap it up with Riley in just a minute.
More of the Fight for Iowa podcast after this.
We all love a good win. Catching up with friends, saving money at the pump, soaking up the perfect Iowa day, sitting down to a really, really good meal. These are the everyday delights that make us smile. These are the moments that connect us all as Iowans. And these are the wins that, more often than not, start with Iowa's farm families and the crop they're growing. Because when corn grows Iowa, Iowans win. Learn more about how to share your own wins at iowacorn.org/IowansWin.
You don't have to go to the game to get a game program. You can download it now by visiting the game day page on HawkeyeSports.com. That's right, the game program is now digital and it's free. So check it out. Get the roster, the stats, and fascinating stories about today's matchup. Just go to HawkeyeSports.com and click on Game Day.
Oh, you know that old injury of yours? The one in your knee or maybe back? Instead of going to the doctor and then doing physical therapy, why not start with therapy first? Athletico Physical Therapy is changing the whole healing process around. Their physical therapists will find the source of your pain and help fix it. Start with them and start living pain-free. Just like that.
It all starts with Athletico Physical Therapy. Schedule your free assessment at athletico.com. No prescription needed. Proud partner of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Now back to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Visiting with Riley Moss on this week's Fight for Iowa podcast. You mentioned earlier Denver's defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, a former head coach there for a year or two. He's a one-time start defensive back. Your position coach is Christian Parker, a skilled DB at FCS Power Richmond. The Broncos were the only team to have two All-Pros, Riley, in the secondary, corner Patrick Surtain and safety Justin Simmons. And, of course, that former Hawkeye linebacking great Josie Jewell will be roaming right in front of you in coverage. It appears from a coaching and defensive talent circumstance, you're really in a good spot.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool to get in there and be able to learn, from some of the best, in the league. Like I said earlier, everyone's got different techniques and what works for them. And I think being able to, learn and be a sponge and just kind of take everyone's perspectives in, will make me a better player.
You mentioned Phil Parker's system, his style, his coaching. How do you feel? What are the top one or two positives in preparing you for the NFL, if you had to describe in playing for Phil Parker?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, our mentality, at Iowa was don't give up big plays, make them earn it downfield. And that's the biggest thing, I think, in the NFL as well is the good defenses, they don't give up very many big plays. And so I think that's a good, correlation between the league and what we do, at Iowa. Another thing I think is, at Iowa, we ran, cover zero, we had cover three, we had cover three match, we had quarters coverage, cover two, we ran everything 2-man. So, when I was going into these meetings with these teams, they were testing me about my, knowledge about football and they'd have me draw up, their defense after they, taught me it. It was fairly easy for me because, I've seen somewhat of a version of that, from Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa in the Big Ten, indeed. Last thing for you, Riley. I don't know if people remember, you were an excellent punt returner. You can kick return. Did that come up at all in the conversations with NFL teams, most notably Denver?
Yeah, they asked me, especially in high school, I punt returned and did kick return. They asked me, what different sports I played, different positions. And I told them, I've punt returned before, I kick returned. I was on all special teams my freshman year. So it helps to, be able to play, like I said, a lot of positions because it makes you, a little bit more valuable on the team.
Riley Moss will be joined in Denver by defensive mate linebacker Seth Benson, who signed as a free agent. Defensive lineman Lucas Van Ness was the first Hawk off the board, taken by the Packers with the 13th selection in round 1. 5 picks later, All-American and Butkus Award-winning linebacker Jack Campbell landed with the Detroit Lions, who added the Big Ten tight end of the year, Sam Laporta, in round 2, the 33rd overall selection. The tight end legacy for Iowa in the NFL continues. Likewise, safety Kayvon Merriweather inked a deal with Tampa Bay, and battering Ram fullback Monty Potabom will continue wearing the black and gold with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Defensive end John Wagner and offensive tackle Jack Plum were extended mini-camp offers from Baltimore and Green Bay. More Fight for Iowa podcast after this brief pause.
More of the Fight for Iowa podcast after this.
Knowing that I can make a difference in my patients' lives keeps me motivated every single day. Hi, I'm Dr. Kanya Ferguson at University of Iowa Healthcare. With academic medicine, we see the toughest cases, so we're always innovating. And we bring the best minds together to collaborate, so there's more brain power focused on you. Because that leads to exceptional care for our patients and our community. See how at uihc.org.
Hey, Hawkeyes fans, the wait is over. The Iowa men's and women's basketball teams are back on the court, and Shields has everything you need to cheer on your favorite players all season long. Take your game day gear to the next level with Shields Fan Shop. We have an unmatched lineup of gear, including jerseys, hats, hoodies, and more to help you show off your team colors. So gear up, Hawkeyes fans, and celebrate all season with Shields, a proud partner of Iowa basketball and hoops fans everywhere.
Now back to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Congratulations to Hawkeye baseball coach Rick Heller. Heller won his 1,000th game last Saturday with a 15-3 decision of Ohio State at Duane Banks Field. The Hawks are 34-12 for the year, 10-7 in the Big Ten, and host Michigan State this weekend. Iowa basketball coach Fran McCaffrey has found another strong forward in the transfer portal. He's Iowa City native Evan Bronze, a former teammate of Patrick McCaffrey at Iowa City West. Bronze played 3 years at Belmont University in the Missouri Valley Conference, averaging 7 points and 5.5 rebounds, shooting 58% his junior season. Hawkeye All-Big Ten golfer Mac McClear will compete in the NCAA Regionals in Las Vegas May 15th through the 17th, hoping to qualify for the Collegiate Championships in Scottsdale May 26th through the 31st. Iowa incoming freshman wrestler Gabe Arnold won the 79-kilogram title at the Under-20 U.S. Open Championships in Vegas this past weekend. Arnold had a pin and 3 technical falls before edging Rocco Welsh 3-2 in the title match. The Hawkeyes had 3 other wrestlers place in the top 5 of their respective classes. Bradley Hill was a runner-up at 125, while Jace Rhodes and Aiden Riggins both placed 5th. I'm Gary Dolphin. That's this week's Fight for Iowa. Go Hawks.
You've been listening to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Hawkeye fans, remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Once you become a Fight for Iowa podcast subscriber, you'll automatically receive the latest episodes of the Fight for Iowa podcast, the Hawkeyes Voice podcast, Hawk Talk replays, exclusive game day content, and more. Until next time, on Iowa, and go Hawks! The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Hawkeye Sports Network.